Slope. My name's Ewan, and I am once again joined by Liam and Craig. Unfortunately, this week we don't have Harry with us. He is at the darts, I believe, tonight, or potentially he has just decided to sack off a fake injury, Liam. As our
Aye.
forward, obviously, he's just decided. Ah, can't really be arsed with that. Made a couple mistakes there last week. He just obviously didn't fancy it. But how you doing, Liam?
It's funny, depending on who you speak to, people have a very different view of Harry's performance last week. It seems to be Marmite, his very high pitched ranting. As was pointed out by several of our listeners, I don't think the Dugs appreciated it. I also think the more, let's just say, mild mannered Hibs supporters didn't appreciate it. But it seems to have gone down well with the sort of how would I put it? Maybe the more reactionary elements of the Hibs support.
Do you know, as ever with Harry, there is always some sense
A
to
lot
it.
of shite talked as well.
Aye, like if you can get really through the weeds yet, there is some sense in there. There's some nonsense, just like the rest of us. Craig, are you delighted that Bagel Boys fucked off for a week?
That's a good reason, to be fair. Let's give him the due. The darts. I've never been, but it looks class, so I'm sure
It
he'll
does
enjoy
indeed.
that.
It does indeed. Well, boys, Hibs have just meant and beat Ross County 3-1 on Saturday, meaning that we have won two of our last four, taking 7 points from 12, and the only defeat in that run of four games came at Celtic Park. Liam, just before we dive into everything too much, just your general thoughts on what we've seen at the weekend?
Very fucking relieved, to be honest. Both in terms of pre-match expectations, I think we were talking about it very much in the context of a must-win game this time last week. So delighted and relieved in that sense that we won one of our must-win games. I am also relieved just given the context and the sort of game state, if you like, at 2-1. I think we started to maybe, well, sure we'll come on and talk about this, but sort of look like we might be about to shoot ourselves in the foot a wee bit with just some of our play. So I think the overriding one emotion is one of relief. I haven't really had that feeling very often in the last sort of, let's be honest, like 2 3 years of just doing something on a Saturday night and going to the thing that you're doing and being quite content with the football. Like sometimes when you go to do something on the Saturday night, the football's like a bit of baggage that you've got to
Yeah,
take with you from the thing that you're going to because you're like, oh fuck. But no,
I
aye,
was,
good.
I know exactly what you mean. I came in on Saturday night, and I wasn't. It was because the way the game was. You weren't. Well, you're not low, but you're not overly high. I was just sound. You know what I mean? Like, I was just fine. And Lauren was like, "Are you all right?" Like she's obviously used
Uh,
to me coming in either happy or really angry. And like four times in sort of the first half hour and whatever, I can't even remember what we were doing. She was like, "Everything all right?" Like like you're sort of. But it's just nice to come away feeling content. Craig, ultimately look, it was a must-win game, and Hibs have won the game. So should we be feeling more than content, or are we hitting the tone right there?
No, I would say you're about right. I would say that's probably the general feeling. I think performance probably did have a slight impact on the feeling after it, but at the same time, it's job done, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
job done. That's what we're there for. I've got to say though, like kind of contradicting what I've just said. I was working, so we weren't at the game. Me and my brother, and my dad, we were all working, and we were the opposite. I was kind of like the whole way through the game, trying not to get too excited or like too down on it. But on the radio, they're absolutely slating us. And then at the end, like it just gave us a massive lift. Like we were all absolutely buzzing after it.
No, I can only imagine what the sort of pundits were saying about the opening half an hour. Look, we can talk about the team, and you can highlight individual players if you want, Liam, in terms of the starting 11 that David Gray picked. But the whatever his intentions were from the opening whistle just totally failed ultimately, didn't they? Ross County were by far and away the better team. And I think our only touch of the ball before their goal was punting a clearance from a corner. Other than that, I don't recall us touching the ball. Just how bad was that start to the game?
it was only about like 3 minutes of really bad, but it felt a lot longer than 3 minutes. One of my mates I sit with was comparing Alex Samuel to like a mini Erling Haaland. I think mainly just because of the blonde hair and the like. He's obviously got like
Are
not. He
we
looks
naming
nothing
and
like
shaming
him.
these or?
Nah, I'll keep that one to myself. But it was kind of funny that sort of developed on the game, just based on I think his like how he appeared to play for the first 3 minutes. It was like he was like this immovable force up front that we just couldn't get to grips with. Um, it was grim. To be honest, the 3 minutes was really bad, but it was really grim for probably 30, 35 minutes that first half. Like you're talking like proper abject shite bad like for the first 35 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like the game was probably almost played in sort of three thirds opposed to two halves. Do you know, like definitely the opening half an hour at least was really really poor. I don't actually think, Craig, it would probably be an exaggeration to say it's the worst we've played this season for a 30-minute spell. There has been some
I was
bad
going to
moments in
say,
games, but I think when it's the opening to a game at home, I mean, I'd described it before the game as like this should be your most open goal 3 points of the season. Like no disrespect to Ross County, but playing them at home really probably should be your easiest game of the season. And for 30 minutes, Hibs looked like they're going to completely make an arse of it.
well, it should be an easy 3 points for Hibs, given the disparity in budgets, obviously. Uh, but I think we were lucky, to be honest, to not concede another. But just the overall play in that opening, probably closer to 40, to be fair, it was so poor. And I think the goal just before half time obviously helps us, but I think that probably puts a way more positive tone on the last 10, 15 minutes of the half than it probably deserves.
Yeah, I think at half time I felt that Hibs had improved a little bit. Sort of, I think when we've been speaking about the game in various group chats, I've said probably from the half hour mark, I felt there was a small inclination of improvement. You know, it wasn't like, but certainly if we'd went in at 1-0 down at half time, I wouldn't have felt that that was an injustice. Do you know, we weren't knocking at the door by any means. I was getting really frustrated at the sort of forward players. I felt Nicky Cadden had put multiple good balls into the box. Joe Newell had put a fantastic ball. That just, you know, one of them that where it floats and it's like someone has to get on the end of that. Do you know, like it's no whipped in. It's perfect, and it just looked so lethargic when we got into the final third. Like everyone on their heels, and that sort of summarised the first half performance really. But a real moment of quality, Liam, in the 50th minute of the game, much to Don Cowie and is it, I don't know, whatever the fullback's name was. His name escapes me. Much to their displeasure. I don't know if you've seen it. One of the Ross County player that
Nah.
got fouled by LAU and late on.
Oh,
Uh,
James Brown.
I was going to say
Is
James
is it
Brown,
is
but
it a different James Brown by the way for the one that was at St Johnstone, or are there two James Browns cutting about in this league?
now I think James Brown that was at St Johnstone a couple of years ago was bald. No, but I
I
could
seem
be
to remember him having
Gingerbread.
scare. I had hair when he scored that goal against Rangers. Like I'm pretty sure I remember a guy with hair turning around. It's funny.
different guy.
I went there to Google James Brown, and surprisingly, nor the St Johnstone or Ross County player were the first two James Browns to come up when I googled
Was Jeff
it.
Stelling the first person to come up by any chance for his little doll? Hey,
No, no,
um,
no. It was the James Brown, funnily enough, because I wasn't smart enough to put James Brown footballer. Um, no, I didn't see that. I mean, I think the Don Cowie thing was a bit of a moot point, to be honest. I think we all know by now, 'cause I think we've all been lectured enough on it, that it's a minimum of 5 minutes. I also think, if there's an attack, I'm not one of these people who thinks that when there's an attack or when I notice now that for corners, for example, they quite often just blow
Yeah.
for half time or for full time. I'm one of these people that you should really just play till the ball goes dead. I don't think there's any reason to stop play. I think it would make it far more interesting actually, like they do in other sports where you wait until the ball goes
yeah,
dead and it's at the referee's discretion ultimately. Because let's be honest, like we were all at a game on Saturday and I don't know exactly, because I don't know where you would find such a statistic, but I would guess that probably the ball was in play for less than half the time on the clock at the weekend. I mean, the number of head knocks that Ross County went down with over the course of both halves, but the first half in particular, coincidentally, when they were 1-0 in front, and number of just injuries and stoppages for throw-ins. You know, they were wasting time from a goal kick from about the 12th minute onwards. So,
Yep.
you know, I think if the referee wants to play an extra few seconds, then you've got to just defend it better, essentially.
Yeah, that was the one thing for me. I mean, I noticed that we were over. Do you know, like I'd like because with the screens at either side, I've noticed in East Stand now that they're not stopping it on 45 and 90, which is fucking incredible, by the way. Like that, and small things that just talk about match day experience. That has improved my match day experience because then when Hibs are hanging on in the 93rd minute, it's like fucking hell, we still got 8 minutes to go or whatever it was in the second half. But no, it was a real moment of quality from a half that had sort of lacked it. A good counter attack, Craig, and finished off nicely by Dwight Gale.
Yeah, by the way, it's a great pick out by Hoylett because he's not just pinging that into an area. He's picked him out there, and obviously a great run, great finish by Dwight Gale. Two most experienced players on the park for us, I think. I'm assuming I'm saying experienced by as another word for oldest. Uh,
Aye.
I'm not convinced that Miko would have scored that goal if he was starting up top, to be fair. So
Do you know,
maybe there's a bit of a point to be made there.
I was going to say though, right? See with the crosses that were getting put in earlier in the game, I think maybe he would have been on one of them because that has been the sort of part of his game this year that we've seen him sort of thrive on, I suppose, whether it be in
Scoring for a yard out.
yeah, like in that 6 yard box. I don't know, maybe I'm being overly generous from what we've seen of him, but I did think maybe the way we were playing in the first half would have lent to him being in the team. But Liam, it was probably a goal that was finished off by maybe our two most ineffective players in the first half in Hoylett and Gale, and that's saying something.
You would give them a run as well. I mean, you know, I think I said it earlier on in the group chat that we're in. You know, yeah, I'm his biggest fan, but Yuan was basically completely ineffective apart from two moments. I mean, he did keep showing for it, and you give him credit for, I suppose, doing some of that kind of what Greg would term bare minimum stuff, but he really stunk the gaff out. I was wondering if he had the wrong footwear on or something on Saturday because he just, like, and when I say wrong footwear, I don't mean studs. I mean like the wrong boot on the wrong feet because every time he went to dribble the ball, he either tripped up over himself or tripped up over the ball. He wasn't great. But those two were also very ineffective. Can we just make sure that because we caned them last week, we give Triantis a wee bit of credit for the ball through as well? It was Triantis, wasn't it, that slipped Toilet in down the right hand side?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. But not to give a positive or a
Fuck,
negative, but
come on,
no, but
mate, just let him have it.
no, what I'm saying is that's not the side of Chanta's game that's in
No,
question.
I know, I
I
know,
think
I
I
know.
think
You're
at
right.
times at times he can look like a very capable football player in terms of when we're on the front foot. It's when he's actually having to do the role that he's supposed to do in the team. That's when he struggles. But half time came and went, obviously, and no changes. Hibs obviously went in, I suppose, with a little bit of a boost. The goal certainly saved probably the biggest boon of the season. And we started on the front foot, and you talk about Ellie Yuan tripping over his feet, Liam. How the hell did he not score for like 8 yards out? And then I think Joe Newell maybe had his miss at Celtic Park on his mind with the attempted volley as well after that.
I mean, I don't know what it was with you, but Joe Neal just needs to put his laces through it. For some reason, he goes to place it, and I think he sort of just gets caught in two minds and just ends up doing nothing that's effective,
Mhm.
really. And to be honest, if you were going to have a criticism of Joe Newell over his time at Hibs, I think one for me would be he should probably chip in with more goals than he does.
Mhm.
For a guy who, I know he's played a wee bit of the six this season, but typically has played as an eight or played more advanced. He hasn't scored anywhere near the level of goals really that I think he's capable of in terms of the quality he has.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen there at the weekend probably part of the reason why.
Yeah,
Well,
he absolutely should chip him with more goals. Just to bring up a point that Ari always makes. See when Joe Newell picks up the ball and drives, he's so good.
Mm.
And if he was to do that, I know if he was to do it more often, he wouldn't be at Hibs. But if he was to start doing that a wee bit more often and ping shots for the edge of the box, or maybe drive into the box and then take a shot, uh, his goal numbers were bound to go up just by sheer just number of shots.
Yeah, there was still moments in the first half where he done that, but I just felt, and I suppose this would be set up, and I don't know if it's because they're playing sort of Hoylett in front of them. I just felt Giannis and Newell were so deep throughout the entirety of the first half. Like they were just like yards in front of the back 3 and 5 at times, and very much their first attitude was backwards, like to retreat into shape as opposed to like a press or anything. It just really sort of frustrated me. I don't know if I just sort of noticed it with where I sit in East Stand. It was sort of where our like defensive line was a lot of the game. So like you're seeing them so close to them, but really frustrating. But look, we've touched on a lot of the negatives there. Let's just wrap up on the negative side of the game, I suppose, in that first half with some of these YouTube comments. I mean, Joe Leslie was in early today. He's commented on this live before it even started, getting a dig in at me, saying that Robbie Dees is pish at a pish team, so please stop touting him to be a Hibs player. But then what else does Joe say? Jordan Smith should be given praise for the saves that he made to keep us in the game. I think the best save was probably at 0-0. Then he makes a decent save at 1-0, which I don't know. I think he should make, but it's ultimately it's a step up from what we've seen this season from the pair of them when they actually make the saves. But what else have we got in? What else have we got in here? John McGlynn, if we can play badly and come away with a 3-1 win, I'll take that any day. Imagine if we can get back to playing decent football with players finding their scoring boots, we could actually smash teams. Liam, that's your favourite. That's your favourite sentiment, isn't it? We're due someone a pumping. We're slowly but surely edging towards that.
Aye, we are. Well, I think the number of chances that we've tended to create, number of shots we get off, I think we are due to give someone a pump in it. It would help if we converted more of our penalties because we've actually been on a pretty decent run of getting penalties this season, but we seem like we seem to have a bit of an issue with scoring from that particular distance. So it almost doesn't matter who takes them. I'm very much now of the opinion that if you scored the last one, you get to keep it. And Yuan's penalty is probably the best quality one we've seen all season. Therefore, keep it with him.
It's a fucking great penalty by a really good penalty.
No keeping the land saving that. You saw it yesterday with the League Cup final. I thought the quality, the standard of penalties in that game was really high. And obviously Bruno Fernandes scored a pretty decent penalty for Man United as well in their game. I think in some respects it's almost not the best finisher or the number 9 at the club that takes the penalty. Sometimes it's just the guy who's got the minerals.
Liam, sorry, I just need to go off on tangent HSC here, but I was ready to volley Matt Ellie when I seen Jack Butland stepping up for the 5th penalty. I've never been enraged by anything more than that, by a goalie taking the 5th penalty. So that's decided beforehand that he's taking the 5th and most decisive penalty. That's generally either wins it or loses it.
I can see the logic behind it, by the way.
He's got that sort of main guy energy at Rangers, though, hasn't he? He was like their player of the year last season, and he's played at a high level.
Taking the penalties,
but the strikers, Dessers, though, mate. Like
they need to step up and take a penalty ahead of a goalie. Come on, I'd be embarrassed if I was number 6.
I would agree under normal circumstances, but I think when the strikers, Dessers, I mean, he's no very proficient from 6 yards. Like,
By the way, great penalty.
It's definitely becoming a bit of a trend, though. Did Joe Hart not do it last year as well? And
fucking missed.
Also, main guy energy. And then
I think Ederson done it in the Champions League, maybe for City last year.
These are forgetting the OG. Well, no, the OG. The OG's Jose Luis Chilavert, but the OG, my favourite one was Ricardo, the Portugal goalkeeper against England at Euro 2004. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was on the 5th.
And he didn't have the gloves on either, did he?
Took the gloves off, smash it. It's such a good pen, man.
Who's the Brazilian keeper?
Rogério Ceni.
Used to take the free kicks. I was seeing them on YouTube, all the clips on them.
Some boy like.
I think that we're totally on a tangent here, and I'm enjoying it because I'm just going to use it to shoehorn into another rant that I want to go on. It's all this set piece coaches in it, but I think that with the goalkeeper, I kind of understand it because they're actually probably striking a football like that more than anyone else on a day-to-day basis.
No, they're not.
It's the total different strike of the ball that you're going for to score for 12 yards to hit it 70 yards.
Anyway, well, that's fine. And
goalkeepers didn't do that anyway because it's the woke nonsense football. They didn't kick it long anymore. They fucking kick it. They kick it fucking 6 yards at a snail's pace.
Jack Butland developed under Tony Pulis. He could hit it. He can hit it 100 yards. But no, set pieces, and again, this isn't a, I mean, it's annoying me because it's Hibs, but again, this seems to be a wider football thing. Why? And I'll say we, but it's there's obviously something that's being deployed. Why are you bringing everyone back at set pieces now? And that I just think you're bringing too many. You can look at before you even look at it from a like counter-attacking standpoint. There's too many players in that box. Like you're making it more difficult for the goalkeeper to have an opportunity to come out and deal with it. You're, in my opinion, too many players in there takes away responsibility from a player because it's too easy for them to say, well, that's not in my zone. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not my job. I'm just a blocker. So I'm not going to. It does matter. And then you factor in that you've not got an out ball. So County had a good few chances in the first half of the weekend where we've cleared the ball, but we can't get out. So they're recycling it and then sprinkling the little fact that for about a 5 minute spell, they took like four short corners in a row, and every single time we still managed to be caught out 2v1.
That is a joke, by the way. I don't know what you guys think. They were having a wee bit of a debate on the radio about it, about whose responsibility that actually is, or like who does the blame fall on? Is it the coaching team, or is it the players on the park? I
I
mean,
think it's
I don't know what you
entirely, I'll
think.
be totally honest, and this is what I'm almost saying with responsibility. I think it's entirely on the coaching staff because now set pieces are treated as such little unique. It's getting more like a basketball or American football where it's like there's a designed play. Do you know what I mean? Whether you're
Mm.
on the defending team or the attacking team. And I just think it's a bit of a mess. And I know people have been going on and on about Craig Sampson. My observations appears to be that he looks to be at least definitely defensively our set piece guy because that's when he's up out the dugout shouting instructions, doing that whistle and all that. But I know I said we were done with the negative shit, but I just that it's really doing my head in. And I thought interestingly, Arsenal are sort of the kings of it just now, aren't they? They're getting all the praise and scoring all the goals from it. Well, Monaco went there last week and left three players up, and all of a sudden Arsenal are having to leave four players back. So straight away you're limiting the danger. It's really fucking annoyed me and watching that at the weekend, especially when you're still being outnumbered in the key positions. You know what I mean? You're losing out on short corners. You're no reacting to the second ball. They win the first contact for the goal. They win the second contact with what actually goes in the net. Really, really fucking frustrating me. Anyhow, Hibs obviously did then build on the late equaliser and followed on for a missed penalty, like you mentioned. Earlier, Yuan stepped up, and then Hibs sort of retreated Liam sort of immediately after Elie Yuan's goal with what had 15 minutes I think left on the clock at that point plus injury time. What did you make of that? And at any point were you worried or were you quite comfy throughout?
No, I mean, like I said earlier on, I was a wee worried just because I felt like we were dropping deeper. Um, I felt like quite often we were sort of getting kind of half clearances to the ball, not getting things out fully. I think when you don't clear your lines fully, I think that then spreads further anxiety in the stadium. So I think people were certainly feeling a bit more tense than they needed to be. So I'm not going to kid on that I was sitting there feeling comfortable because I really wasn't.
Would there be like do you think circumstances sort of dictated it? I can't remember the sort of exact minutes and stuff when it happened, but obviously O'Hara got injured, and we sort of then had to bring a midfielder on. You know, we didn't have any centre half cover, so I think it was just a case of we don't have a specialist almost, and just let's get bodies behind the ball and.
But Triana's a centre half.
I said specialists. No, no. Like, well, do you know what I mean though? Like, is it like okay, we've lost our arguably our main defender in terms of who was on the pitch at the time? Like, so like, is it like, well, what we need to do here is just keep them that side of us. Do you know what I mean?
Nah,
Like,
because I think it started before Hora went off. To be honest, I think the tension started long before he went off the park. I'm not sure the subs really had a great deal of impact on the game, other than obviously, Campbell's obviously got the goal and he was actually fairly instrumental in actually quite a few defensive actions. I felt like towards the latter part of that period. Um, but I don't. I wouldn't overplay the sort of influence of bringing on Quan for Colin Farrell and then putting Triantis back. I didn't feel like that was a majorly instrumental part of why we were the way we were.
I just thought it was like, is it easier to keep them that side? But maybe I'm just looking too much into it. Craig, Ross County, I think, had one shot on target after Hibs scored, and it was Ronan Hale with like a 25-yard deflected shot. I could be wrong there, but I don't remember Jordan Smith having to make another save. So
I didn't
are
make
we
a save, but
potentially
it was
overly critical?
no, because I just think I understand what you're saying about obviously the subs and the changes and stuff having an impact, but I think more importantly at that point is just the context of our season and the amount of times that this has happened, and the feeling around the stadium, the anxiety around the stadium that, oh, here we go again, like we're back to the game, we're going to concede another late goal that's going to cost us the game. I probably feel that in the team actually has more of an impact than actually tactics or subs or setup or anything like that. I just feel like a team that's maybe not used to winning in those positions this season is just naturally going to start dropping 5-10 yards deeper than you should.
Do you think starting to see these games out, Liam, could almost be as sort of beneficial to the psyche of the team as the more comfortable win at Motherwell, in terms of 3-0, or do you think that could be overplayed as well?
I know. I think I said that weeks ago. I think it is. I think it is beneficial to the team. I think the more I mean, you get in a lot of things in life, you gain confidence by being able to demonstrate you can do something. So like if you just continually see games out or keep a clean sheet, I think you become it's almost like muscle memory. You go through the actions and you do the things you know you need to do. There are some teams in the league as well who, let's just say it, I think some teams in the league are really well suited to being sort of camped in their own box probably for the last 10, 15 minutes of a game and are quite happy defending the box. I don't think we are really that kind of team, albeit I think we are, maybe more robust than the number of late goals that we've conceded would suggest. All I would say is I think, I think there's long-winded way, I think, of saying also, I think, a lot of teams in this league really who are of a very similar standing, very similar level of quality. So I think naturally a lot of the games that we're going to be involved in between now and the end of the season are going to be decided by a goal here or there. There's probably not going to be a lot of games where we win by 2 or 3 clear goals, to be honest. As much as I'm willing us to pump someone,
Yeah.
I still think will.
Well, that sort of does take us into, obviously Harry can't be with us, but he did ask for us maybe to go through one question that he has, and I think you have hit the nail on the head on it already, but is there a reason why we struggle so badly to put in a good performance in both halves of games? It may happen with most teams, but it feels like it's been a massive issue for us since Lee Johnson was the gaffer, and it's not got any better since. I immediately went back and said I just don't think we are that much better than a lot of teams in the league to dominate a game for 90 minutes. Like that's ultimately where I see the Hibs squad. We've played well in the last 4 games, but I still don't think the squad is good enough. I don't think the individuals are good enough. So for me, that would be the reason. But Craig, do you think different to that, or?
No, I don't think there's any specific reason other than it's just a sign of a relatively poor side, which obviously Harry says since the Lee Johnson season, to be fair, we've been a relatively poor season, a relatively poor side all of the last 3 or 4 seasons. So I think that's just literally just a sign of a poor side.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give him his question, soon as we slagged him off at the start. Liam, do you have any other take on that, or do you think Harry's been too critical there, or?
No, I think you look back through history. I think it's always different when you're in the moment you're living through something. I think you look back through history. I think even the seasons where we have been successful, I don't think we've been hugely dominant in games for long, long spells of time. I think what we've had typically when we've finished higher up the league is we've had players who are capable of moments of individual brilliance, i.e. are clinical, and we've had a fairly solid-ish defence. Like I don't think we've ever been, the best defensive side in the league outside the Old Firm from memory. Certainly not over a sustained period. But I think we've generally had players, don't need to list them off, but through the Mowbray era, I think certainly the attacking talent we had in the team probably set us apart from the rest. I think defensively we were lacking at points. I think Jack Ross for maybe 2/3 of the season, you could say that sort of settled back four of McGinn, Porteous, Hanlon, and either Doig or Stevenson. I seem to remember us going on quite a good run of clean sheets, but then sort of towards the latter part of the season, we really weren't so good defensively. And then if I think you fast forward into the next season, a lot of that success really slipped away. So um, I also think, just being candid, I think a lot of the success of that back four, as much as people don't want to hear it, was us having a dedicated screener in front of them who was permanently employed to do that job as well. A number six, dare I say it. So I think that just shows the impact that those types of players can have.
Do you
It's
think
just
the average age has anything to play in that sort of?
Say
Because obviously we
so.
always go on about young players individually being inconsistent, but
Aye.
maybe like a young squad is inconsistent throughout 90 minutes. Like we're not going to be good for a full 90.
I mean, you put Stevenson in when Doig's not available. I mean, Porteous was obviously still in his early 20s at that point, but then probably the rest of them are sort of 30 and upwards. I think that does have an impact. We also had a very good goalie behind them as well for that particular season. I do also think that helps. Goalkeepers, yes, it's really important what they do in terms of the saves that they make, but the good goalkeepers also inspire confidence in the back four and the back five because they communicate with them. Um, and
fucking mental that we went with Matt Macy. Sorry, fucking mental we went with Matt Macy in a cup final over Marciano.
aye, aye,
Sorry,
Was
Leah.
that
I
injury
know
or
I
was that
just
just a
totally
choice?
choice because he was leaving and Macy had played the cup games.
aye.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Aye.
know I just interrupted you there, but just mentioning about
I
a
mean,
good
even more
goalkeeper
mental
and
that
planning that. And,
Heckenbottom because persisted with playing Chris Maxwell for about 12 games ahead of him as well. If you want to go there, I mean, I just that it's a very very important position, goalkeeper. And we touched on that last week in the transfer special. But to be fair to Jordan Smith, didn't do a lot wrong at the weekend,
It's
in
just
terms of, everything really was asked of him. He did it well. He made, I think, one particularly good save in the first half, down to his left-hand side, which, a save I'd expect him to make, but I think you still give credit when they do it. I think it's a good save. Um, I don't think there's an awful lot more he can do at the goal, to be honest.
no, I don't think so. No, I don't think so either. I think it's unfortunate from his point of view. Probably the more he plays, the more he is earning some potential, what's the word? Grace for maybe rustiness in the Aberdeen game. Potentially, still two bad mistakes in my opinion, but first game of football that he would have played in, well, other than the Celtic game, potentially years. Would that would
his first team game ever.
aye, like that's and probably in the last three games potentially proven to be a fairly competent backup goalkeeper, potentially, that I would still want us to improve on
It's early
come
days yet
January.
from me. Early days.
But as a number two, like as a number two, you don't want to play more than probably 3 or 4 games in a season. Do you know what I mean? Like I think,
But they
and
still have to be capable. You have to
yeah,
know that you can count on them.
Not to be condescending, but this is great experience for him as well. Like this is a great opportunity. He obviously played a few games for Nottingham Forest, I think maybe in the Championship or League One. But I mean, this is kind of the most high profile, probably the most heavily scrutinised he's been since then. I know we sometimes have delusions of grandeur as supporters of Hibs, but I mean we're miles ahead of teams that play in the English Northern Premier Division. So I think I, I, I think this is a great opportunity for him, and actually, maybe having a wee run in the team's giving him aspirations of being something more than number two. I think all we can hope for is he's probably going to be in goals for the next 4 games. So, another solid 4 performances out of him would be terrific.
yep. Let's just go back to some YouTube comments. We've had quite a few come in from Jay and Sandy. First one was on Jordan Smith, says he's a good goalkeeper, although we definitely need to get another one in January, so maybe similar to myself there. Didn't play for 30 minutes, but they rolled their sleeves up and showed the desire to get the points. Makes a point about Triantes being a 21-year-old that's learning his trade. But the one that I want us to come on to, and it'll take us on to the Aberdeen game, look like potentially having 3 defensive players injured for the Aberdeen game, and I worry for how we line up at the back with Miller, Ekpiteta, and O'Hara injured. could this be the end, Craig, of the three at the back that we've seen recently, or would you be looking to maybe slide like Jordan or Beta into the back three, if obviously the players are still injured?
Probably not. Not away to Aberdeen. I wouldn't be looking to put players out of position. I wouldn't think. Having said that, the one time Albeit wasn't at left centre half individually in that
And
game,
a
I thought he'd
two
done
as well,
okay.
eh? Fuck.
But no, I probably wouldn't be doing that. I'd just maybe go to the back four.
That would just this is where we probably all differ a little bit. Like, I know yous aren't as much for shape maybe as I am, but like I just think we've looked so much. I just don't think it can be a coincidence that we changed the shape and it's the best 4 game stretch we've put together all season. The players look comfortable in it. It's it's a shiter, to be honest with you, because the difficulty for me is Iredale looks incredibly one-footed. If I'm being honest, looks a fairly competent player. Maybe didn't have his best game, especially early doors on Saturday, and he needs to cut out trying to fucking tell the East Stand to calm down when we're 1-0 down at home at Ross County. But so he's left-sided. Obita's left-sided, and I don't think I'd be comfortable with Rocky being the outside centre back in a free. So
Nah.
I think our hands may well be tied there, Liam. I don't know.
I think if Miller or Hora are back, and look, it's Monday and the game's on Saturday, so there's every chance one of those two might be back. I think you persist with it. I don't like the idea of Iredale or Obita in the middle as a middle centre back in three. I think that is much like the number six. I think the centre back and the wide centre backs in three in football are becoming a bit of a specialist position because there's certain attributes that you need those players to cover, particularly the outside players in terms of their ability to distribute the ball, but also their recovery pace when that ball gets knocked into the channel. And then the centre back, I think what we're seeing now, probably through a sustained period of games, for the first time he's really played in that role, that Rocky's actually potentially quite well suited to that in terms of it hides some of his deficiencies, and allows him to focus at what he's good at. I think the only thing that maybe I think he could be a bit sharper on is, and I think we all know this and we probably all concede that, I think aerially he could be better. I think the stats in terms of aerial duels aren't too bad, but I think actually, in terms of the eye test, I don't think he gets a clean header on it a lot of the time. I think that's why maybe people, would certainly at least perceive him to not be so good in the air. So I do think they are becoming quite specialist positions. I don't really want to see us try and just shove players in, round pegs and square holes to make it work. But like you, I think it's it'd be remiss not to notice the fact that things have improved since we've gone to that three at the back. It'll be a bit of a headache for him if the guys aren't fit. But I think if Miller or O'Hora are fit, I think his decision will be made for him.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree. I think if either the players that naturally would play on the right side are available, then that's what we should be looking at. And I agree entirely with the specialist comment. I think Iredale looks that on the left.
Aye.
Like that's sort of exactly what he looks like to me. And so it will be difficult. It will be. Just been some debate there though in the Twitter chat. Could Giannis play in a back three? Sorry, not in the Twitter chat. Sorry, YouTube chat. Sorry.
He probably could, but do you want to see it?
I've already seen it. And it wasn't great. He's got a bit of the recovery pace, maybe as a centre half for the outside one. But see, when he played centre half, was he either in the centre of a three
He was in
or
a
left
four
side?
under Montgomery. He was in a four.
Right.
On ball he could play there, but
it would have to be as the right though. It would have to be.
I worry about his attention span, to be honest.
I know exactly.
I worry about him being switched on.
He looks just so he looks so much better when he doesn't just think he's got too much time. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Dilly's on the ball far too much.
My struggle with Giannis is, see when he needs to be sharp, he's slow, and when he's got time to be slow, he rushes things like it, and it is that a composure thing as much as anything else? Like an understanding of the game and like a feel of a game and understanding the moment of a game. I don't know, but it's definitely started some good conversation in the YouTube chat between iGolf, Tweetler, Frosty, McRambo, Remy Cool, and our friend Aki. So what have we got? Frosty says Giannis a bit shaky at centre back, I'd say. Tweetler says, could you move Giannis back and bring Kwon into the midfield? I personally would be bringing in Campbell before I brought Kwon in, probably. However, I'd probably play Campbell regardless, and over Hoylett personally for this weekend. And Remy Cool says he's also a Trianti's into the back three to try and keep that situation. And Aki says, obviously players available come into question, but it's just more evidence that we've not recruited properly in terms of squad depth. 5 centre midfielders on the bench and not a single centre back.
That's the truth.
If you want to include Junior Hoylett, given he played as a number 10, as a central midfielder of a 20-man squad at the weekend, 18 outfield players, 8 of them occupying that central midfield position. That is fucking ludicrous, isn't it?
It is, especially when I could 3 or 4 of them and never getting a look.
The fact that that's not every central midfielder contract at the club, because you've got Rudy that can play there and Noah Kenna. Yet Harry McCurdy was our striker option, and we didn't have a centre half. Absolutely mental. But not to be sidetracked. Aberdeen away, tricky game. Craig, I feel like we've done okay up there in recent years, though. Like, did we draw last year? Is that correct? And we drew up there under Lee Johnson in the split.
Did we not win last year?
We went up there
last year.
We went up there. It was the first game after the.
I've been to Aberdeen about 15 times now and never seen us win. And I've missed it twice and we've won both times. So I think it'll be a solid game. It's, to be fair, it's definitely been more positive up there recently, like dead recently, than it was. We had this sort of 2-season spell where we were losing all the time. We were getting pumped by 3 or 4 goals every single time we went up. But I think it's one of these games at the moment that you look at it, and if you could snatch a draw out of that, I'd be delighted with that.
Yeah. We must have played them again last season at Pittodrie. That game is entirely escaping.
2-2 against William Warnock's Aberdeen. Remember Nicky Devlin handball? Nicky Devlin.
Oh.
Neil Warnock tries to distract by saying that David Marshall was at GBH or something, attempted murder or something on
manslaughter, which isn't a thing up here or something.
Absolute nut job.
Or attempt to, so no, we've got some decent memories to pull on up there. And speaking of handballs, Harry McCurdy redemption, that could have been entirely different was it Nicky Devlin that time as well that handballed it? I'm not sure. What is it with Nicky Devlin handballing it against us or not? It was him at fucking Easter Road the other week or not?
I don't think it was Nicky Devlin. But by the way, that one kind of got brushed over. He knew exactly what he was doing in that game. He definitely knew what he was doing. But I was at the Harry McCurdy one as well. Man, could have been different, but I think, to be fair, Harry McCurdy's had long enough and chances enough to not let one moment be his downfall at Hibs.
Liam, what do you think we're going to get for Aberdeen this weekend? Obviously, I think is it 1 win in 6 or no win in 6, but they've just had a weekend off. I'll be honest, that worries me more. Maybe a bit of a chance to sort of get right. You know what I mean? Some time off and maybe go again.
I think the time away from playing games will help them, given that they don't really have a great deal of momentum going into the game, shall we say. Gives the manager a bit of an opportunity to go and work with his players. And I think you hear it quite often from managers about how precious sort of time on the training pitch is, just with modern day football and the schedule being the way it is. So I expect them to be better, to be honest. And it's always tougher going up there than it is at Easter Road. It's just one of them things. Pittodrie is not, certainly in my lifetime, and to Craig's earlier point, I don't know if I think I've seen us win once there, and in a lot of attempts. I wouldn't care to guess how many, but we don't win there typically.
I've not seen us win there, but I've seen us fail to beat 9 men there. Don't know what that says, but we spoke about the defence there, and obviously a lot of that is subject to change on sort of player availability. But is there any sort of must starts, must not starts sort of midfield forward for you, Craig?
Must starts, Ewan. I know he was. You guys were saying about him stinking the place out on Saturday there, but ultimately gets a goal and assist. And I was going to ask you at the time, like if Ewan does that and he's rubbish every week, but he's getting his goal and assist, like is that enough? Is that good enough? It is
Look,
for me because that's his job.
I don't think he was. Do you know what's he wasn't at his best by any means, but it wasn't a case for the want of trying, or he never had. He kept showing for the ball. He was trying to come deep and get the ball and take players on. It was just a bit sloppy in the final third, but it was also the case for the entire team. Maybe not too dissimilar to probably what we've seen from him at Motherwell. I think at Motherwell away, he'd done a lot of good as well, but was sloppy. Again, he had a really good header that he should have scored. And I think even a player like Ellie Ewan, I have to think there must have been a bit of a confidence thing in there as well. Do you know, in terms of just getting that final bit across the line, getting his first goal, getting his first assist will be massive for him. Like see Silly, I know he went on and then had a argument with Marvin Bartlett about it, but I think see things like Ellie Ewan getting man of the matches, I'm getting some plaudits on social media and stuff. I think all of that stuff will just bring out the best in them in the same sense that when people go online and well, obviously we know that some of this stuff is just a disgrace, but even just the stupid nitpicky stuff, he strikes me as the player that will impact and he is very aware of. Everyone went on about how he would post the edits and stuff on Instagram. I think he is obviously aware of it. And
Very well, yeah,
I
you can
just,
see that.
and I think that getting that goal and the assist will just, take his ego up a level, and he'll want to line up against Nicky Devlin or whoever it may well be for Aberdeen at the weekend, and he'll want to embarrass him. Do you know? I think that's almost the attitude that little boost will give him. So he's definitely a must start for me as well. Liam, anyone other than Ellie Yuan that sort of has to be in that team for you if Hibs are going to get a result?
Nah, I'd probably just stick with the same team if you can, to be honest.
Okay.
Can I just jump in on that? I just something came through my head. The weekend I was looking on Flashscore when Triantis got booked, and I don't know how reliable this is, but it's got in next to his name to the book and misses next match. So I don't know if maybe there's a accumulation there. I've not heard anything about that other than seeing that.
It could well
So that
be.
obviously would throw another spanner into the works if that was the case.
It could well be, and I think if Giannis wasn't available, Josh Campbell will 100% start the game. I think that would almost be a given for his energy.
Was JDH on the bench at the
He
weekend?
was, yeah.
Aye.
I was just going to say, I think Doyle
Because surely he's got to come in because he's probably the most out of everybody else. All
combative.
your other number eights that are on the bench, he's probably the most defensively minded.
I would say so. I'll be honest. I think Hoylett's start. I know he done well for the first goal. I think we're not seeing the best out of him just now.
Nah.
And I don't know if it's the fact he's playing in that central position and maybe the game's just a little bit too quick for him. He's maybe holding, I think he's just holding on to the ball a little bit too much. He's not getting the opportunity to square players up as much. He's receiving the ball with his back to go in as opposed to facing it. So I think if there was going to be a change, I would certainly look at that area of the pitch. And ultimately, when you play as badly and then as averagely as we did in the game at the weekend, a lot of eyes will be on the midfield area. So if we've seen a couple of changes in there, it wouldn't be a big surprise to me. But yeah, look, let's just wrap up on a couple other YouTube comments. I'd missed one there from Rob when we were talking about the goalkeeper around, and he said Jordan Smith is back up on the bench, but who would be any realistic goalkeeping options that we could get in the league? We tried to have a sort of chat about that last week, Rob.
Uh,
But I was just wondering if you had it, as as you have been going about watching the games this weekend, if anyone else had popped into your minds in that goalkeeping position.
the only one I thought about after we recorded last week, and he's been getting good reviews, but maybe the most exciting of signings is Callum Ferry at Queen's Park. I
The
think
young
Queen's
guy.
I don't think he's that young, to be honest. I think he's sort of mid-20s. I think the young guy you're thinking of is the one that Bournemouth signed, that Callum McKenna, who could potentially, I suppose, come on loan to us, I suppose. They've also got the other guy, Paulson, that they loaned out to Auckland FC in the A-League. Is it David Paulson? Alex Paulson, maybe? another goalkeeper. So I suppose those are kind of potentials. I think Callum Ferry at Queens Park has been getting good reviews, but again, maybe wouldn't be the most exciting signing. And
I,
I think he was maybe at Dundee before,
I
didn't
watched him
quite work
against
out.
Falkirk, to be fair, and I think it was against Falkirk at
It was a
Hampden.
Friday night game a
Uh,
couple of weeks ago.
yeah,
Mm.
he made a couple of good saves, but I'll be honest, he strikes me more as a backup goalie, like a
Uh,
second choice now, rather than being coming in as a starter.
There's not a last year there was like Meatov, like a sort of standout. There's not really,
no,
I mean, across the board, I don't think there's been many. I think we did touch on it last week. I think there's been many wow players this year. I mean, obviously Celtic have had a couple of players like that have done very well, but
mm,
I don't see anyone across the league at sort of lower
Ashton Oxford
end.
at Motherwell, he's been getting a few plaudits. Although I've seen he's obviously made a mistake against us and made a mistake at the weekend as well. But
I think I'd want the sample size to be a bit bigger with him. He's been good certainly the first part of this season, but I think if you look at the last few games, even the game at the weekend, I think he was sort of quite questionable in terms of that game. So I'd also don't know if he's got the profile. I spoke about last week the sort of profile that we need is an experienced number one goalie that's you know two, 300 games, 30 years of age or approaching that, who can properly command the defence. Um, I think my shout for the summer of Danny Ward's probably looking unlikely given that he's played for Leicester this season. But that kind of guy, 31, played at a good level. There's just not a lot of them kicking about, especially in January.
We did get one shout for Wayne Hennessy
Mm.
on Twitter today when we shared the live, but I think I would avoid that one personally. But yeah, you
It's
never
just,
know.
it's
You
just the
never know.
joke. The
where's
joke
he?
there's too easy, isn't it?
Yeah, far too simple, mate. Far too simple. But look, let's wrap this up. I think we can call this a pod. But I would like a score prediction from each of you for the Aberdeen game this weekend.
You're wrapping it up before we address the Kenna at centre back shout in the YouTube comments, which
I
I
just
think I think needs touched
I
on.
just I just thought that he did really quickly say on the bench he meant.
Oh
As
right, oh sorry, I didn't see that.
so I was just giving them the benefit of the doubt. Aki's just really quickly come in there, Craig, and saying that he would be a suspension on if he gets one more yellow because two of his yellows were in the same league game. If I recall correctly, they don't combine together
Uh,
Nice.
because he got suspended for.
that's Triantis, by the way, no Kenna for the
Oh,
listeners.
aye, did I not say Giannis? Sorry.
Um, I don't think Nohan Kenna could have managed to amass 5 bookings this season, given that I don't think he's even made the bench once. That would be quite
Yeah,
impressive.
he's clearly been one of the players that's been told by Malky in that interview that he done after the transfer window. He's been one of the guys that's been told, "Aye, you're sitting in the reserve team. You either leave or you're not playing."
Absolutely.
Aye. And I think him and I don't know if you saw the Luke Amos training clip. Did you see it?
No.
Him and Luke Amos obviously are kind of, both in that. It's surprising to me that, Harry McCurdy and, in some respects, Jay Doll Hayes as well, who, I think I'd go as far as say I'm a fan of, but, they haven't been given that same treatment, it would appear, because they're still getting named in match day squads. The other one that's just so curious is Mariah Welsh, who's
Back on the bench
just
at the weekend,
back on the
mate.
bench at the weekend out of nowhere. You almost forget he existed. I'm really struggling with that one because I thought he looked so promising last season when he came in. For him to just not be anywhere near it is very strange.
I think what we're learning, Liam, is we need to start looking past players that are athletic. I think we need to drop our athlete shout. Mariah Welsh can cover the ground. Janez looks like he should be an athlete. Maybe that's our problem. Maybe we need to start appreciating the finer parts of the game and bringing back Monty and just passing teams to death.
It's almost like the Moneyball stuff of you've got the guys that can do the individual bits, but we don't sign the complete player. If you put some of what Mariah Welsh has as a footballer in terms of his tenacity, his determination, his speed across the ground, if you put some of that into Triantis, you'd have a complete footballer. But at the
Aye,
moment, you've
then.
kind of got two half footballers,
But
haven't
they
you?
play in the Premier League. That's the problem.
What's
That's
Especially
the
true.
for Hibs.
what's the football equivalent of getting on base? What's the
Getting on base is probably probably Junior Hoylett winning a free kick about 70 yards for his own goal. When he just takes it in, he just waits for the contact and just goes. That's getting on base, isn't it? Really,
Aye. Well,
we're missing our very own Billy Bean tonight, aren't we?
We are indeed. We are
Billy Bean,
indeed.
the Bagel Boy.
Oh, I do enjoy when we take the piss out of the missing person. It's out of order, really. But hey
It's
ho.
my favourite feature of the show, to be honest. I think we should actually just formally bring it back and just fully roast them for 5 minutes.
Aye, and you know what? We've been a bit nice to each other this year. Hibs have been upsetting us enough. We didn't want to pile on each other. Maybe if things start getting better, we'll have to resort to bullying each other for our negativity slot of the pod. But
It's it's because Craig's joined. He's such a nice guy. You just don't feel like you can lower the tone and start slagging people. I
Well,
also
do it
feel
next week.
I feel like that when I bumped into Harry's dad before the game on Saturday. I was like, he was like, he was kind of. Sort of, I wouldn't say he was glowing, but he was quite, I think he was quite proud, and I stopped myself. Ella was there as well, so I stopped myself short of saying, what was that all about
I think
last
he did.
week?
I think he did. He was. He certainly was laughing at the high pitched rants and stuff.
Aye,
But no, it
aye.
was.
Dan's
Oh,
up for grabs as well, by the way. I've known Harry's dad fan, obviously, for ages as well. And he gets a slagging at all the games as well.
Aye.
Nobody's off limits.
Nobody's
but
off
hey,
limits.
would we change Harry? Absolutely not. He absolutely makes this show. I
If we
think
could change him for a better podcast, that we would. Like,
one of the
I mean,
three listeners, Liam.
everyone. I mean, I think everyone in this podcast is dispensable in some way or another, aren't they? Like, if you can upgrade, then you always look to do it, don't you?
Well, to be honest, if you can manage to get a YouTube live working, edit,
Aye.
if you can edit audio to get music at the start of it, if you can make graphics better than someone that looks like they've learned how to do Microsoft Paint 2 days ago, aye, you're going to be a
Your
massive
graphics always
upgrade.
impress me, mate. Your graphics always impress me. I'll give you that. The rest of it, not so much, but your graphics always impress me.
Look, we said we were going, or I said we were going to wrap this up 5 minutes ago now, but I do want a score prediction from you. So very quickly, Craig, you first. What's the score going to be, and give me a goal scorer?
2 each, and Yuan to score one, and Boyle off the bench for the other.
Ooh, yourself, Liam.
I think we're going to go up there and win. It's going to be one of those really weird sort of games where you kind of struggle to fathom and justify how it's happened. But I think we're going to go up in there and win. I think we're going to continue our streak of scoring three. I think we're going to go up there and win 3-2. 3-2 Hibs. Not going to give you any scorers, but I'm just going to tell you
Remarkable.
that Elian's going to have one of those games that he just
Think,
has where you just go like, aye, that's what's
think
going
it'll
to
be
happen.
11-5 again this week for a goal.
I would suggest that the price on him should go shorten. And to be honest, I'm surprised that more people didn't get on that shout at 11-5. I think we've all been saying it's coming for a while. He may well be 11-5 or longer, given it's Aberdeen away. The bookies will obviously account for Aberdeen having been pretty strong earlier in the season. So I think it'll be LU on any time. Might be a double or quits this weekend.
Can I just jump in on that, just as we're talking about bookies, just really quickly with you, and before you give your score prediction on another tangent here. Uh, the Does Jack Iredale go into the box for corners?
He did at the weekend.
The bookies have got
In the
him
second
like
half.
18-1 for any time, every single match. So that's been the last like 3-4 games. That's been my quid anytime player. And Nohan Kenna is only like fucking 6-1 or something. What's that like? How have they worked that
Kukurevich
one out?
had our second best odds for a goal at the weekend, and wasn't until about 2:45 that he got taken off of the bet 365 thing. There's look,
Uh,
gamble responsibly.
But gamble responsibly, and obviously everything we say is caveated with the fact that we're all losers. But there is money to be. See, if you watch Hibs games, like there is genuinely money to be made in the way the bookies price things, because
They don't pay
they don't
attention.
have no, they don't have the intrinsic knowledge of the games that you're at and you go to. Having said that, the anytime goal scorer bet is a total mug punter's bet, just the way the bookies price it. But it doesn't stop me from jumping on it from time to time.
Eh, I think that might do it. Oh, sorry. 2-0 Hibs. Clean sheet, 2 goals, Eliuan double. Happy fucking days. And do you know what we're going to end on? Do you know what we're going to end on? We're going to end on a very final YouTube comment. And seeing as we've slagged Harry all night long, Jay and Sandy thought you took Harry to the pub and left him there. Well, look, we've not done that, but I'm sure he's having a great time at the darts, but he will be back as loud as ever, I'm sure, next week. And looking forward to an Edinburgh derby after the Aberdeen game. So we'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for joining us on YouTube and listening. Cheers.
On the
Cheers.
Hibs.